Namaste and good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome all the participants in this hall and the participants who are joining this workshop virtually on the second day of South Asian Regional Workshop for Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Horticulture 2022. Today also, we are joined by Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Prasad from Agriculture and Forest University, and Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Navaraj Debkota from Gandaki University of Nepal. Thank you so much for your gracious presence. And I would also like to welcome all the respective delegates from United States, Bangladesh, and different institutions of Nepal. And I would like to welcome you in today's session. Today also, we'll be working together and share knowledge and insight and discuss different challenges and opportunities in different sectors of horticulture in South and Southeast Asian region and provide the feedback and suggestion to develop the comprehensive report. Today, we have 3 technical sessions and we will follow the same guideline as yesterday. In each session, we have 3 thematic presentations and we allocate 15 minutes for each presentation, and we request all the presenters to finish their presentation within the allocated time. And each technical session is led by the respective chairman, and after each session, all the participants will divide in 3 groups, and the respective reporters which will lead the discussion, compile suggestion, feedback to prepare the report. Without further delay, we'll now start our technical session. For this third technical session, I will humbly request Professor Dr. Tamanna Haq from Bangladesh Agriculture University to chair this technical session. Please, ma'am, lead this session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session. As she mentioned already, I am Professor Dr. Tamanna Haq from Bangladesh Agriculture University, Bangladesh. First, actually, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me and give me the opportunity to chair this session, today's session. Today, in this session, we have actually 3 presenters, and they will have 15 minutes each. And we also have rapporteurs for these sessions. Rapporteurs are Umnath Sharma, Madhav Lamsal, and Dhan B. Thapa. So I think they will work accordingly. And now our first presenter is Dr. Shanta Karki. She is Deputy Director General of Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. And she will present on current policy and further policy recommendations for horticulture sector development in South and Southeast Asia. So may I request Dr. Shanta Karki to give your presentation. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Good morning to everyone. And thank you, Session Chair, for the introduction. I like to directly go to my presentation. The topic I was given was current policy and further policy recommendations for horticulture sector development in South and Southeast Asia. And to this audience, I don't have to mention the importance of horticulture. I just like to recall that its horticulture crops are a source of human nutrition, and recognizing that the United Nations had declared year 2021 as the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables. I now just briefly want to show the area under fruits and vegetables in South Asian countries. So if we see here, the area under fruit is in percentage for the total agricultural land of the country. For example, in Afghanistan, out of the total agricultural land, just 6.3% is under the fruits. So if we see for all the countries, it's like around 10% maximum for Bhutan, and all of them have less than 10%. Similarly, for the vegetables, it's similar trend up to 11.3 in Nepal. So what I want to say here is, although these crops are very important, and yesterday Professor Beth showed us that it should comply 50% of our diet every dinner and lunch, the area under these crops are very low. So I think there is still scope to utilize our fallow lands and increase the areas to increase the production. For the production, this is the average yield ton per hectare. So if you see Afghanistan, it has around, the blue one is for fruits, around 8 tons per hectare, and for vegetable, 9 tons per hectare. So out of 8 South Asian countries, India has the most yield, that is around 13 tons per hectare for fruits and 15 tons per hectare for vegetables. And if we see the world average, for the fruits, India is almost similar to the world average, 13 ton per hectare. And for vegetable, the world average is 18 ton per hectare. So all of our South Asian countries are below the world average. So we have a lot of scope to increase our potential yield and actual yield in the field. For the current policies, there are many agriculture related policies, but I have selected just the few ones related directly to fruits and vegetables. If we see for Afghanistan, they have National Agriculture Development Framework developed in 2009. Similarly, National Comprehensive Agriculture Development Priority Program 2016, Project on Horticulture and Value Chain Development 2019 to 2024. So this shows that they are also giving importance to the horticulture sector. Similarly, for Bangladesh, the 7th five-year plan 2016 to 2020 focuses on ensuring food and nutrition security. Similarly, they have National Plan of Action for Nutrition 2016 to 2025. It also stresses on increasing vegetable and fruit production, both at national level and household level, and through the integrated horticulture development programs. For Bhutan, now they have 12th five-year plan, which goes from 2018 to 2023. And main objective is increase vegetable production towards 100% self-sufficiency by the end of the plan. So we can see the vegetables have been really given focus. Similarly, for sustainable citrus production with rejuvenated orchards, because citrus orchard decline is common problem in Bhutan and in Nepal as well. Commercial agriculture resilient livelihoods enhancement program 2015 to 2022. Food Security and Agriculture Productivity Project 2017 to 2022. For India, there are many policies, but I just picked this one because this one was Mission for Integrated Development Horticulture. And under this, they have different projects. And one of the important one is projects to develop important post-entry quarantine facilities for temperate fruits, apple, walnut, almond. And this also focuses on production and multiplication of clone root stocks and important varieties of temperate fruits for large-scale production to meet the huge demand. And I picked this one because in Nepal also we have the same problem. We are importing a lot of high-density apple saplings and grafted walnuts. So I think from this we can also learn a lot. For Maldives, they have Agriculture Development Master Plan 2006 to 2020. Similarly, in FAO's Maldives Country Programming Framework, they also promoted home gardening for fruits and vegetables. For Nepal, we have many policies, but the important ones are here. And the important program and strategies are, our agricultural development programs are led by Agriculture Development Strategy from 2015 to 2035. Similarly, in Food and Nutrition Security Plan of Action, we have chosen 9 components. Out of them, horticulture is one of those. Then we have Prime Minister Agriculture Modernization Project. It's led by government funding, and we have many zones, super zones, blocks, and pockets that are focused on vegetables and fruits. Similarly, we have ongoing fruit decade program from 2017 to 2027. This also aims at expanding the fruit areas and improving the fruit production. And every year we have been putting priority on apple and citrus programs that are to increase the production and productivity. For Pakistan, they have national food security policy, and this one introduces high value crops like olive, pistachio, almond. All of these are horticultural crops. And for Sri Lanka, they have national agriculture policy for food and export agriculture, and most of the exported items are horticultural crops. They have also national agriculture research policy and strategy 2018 to 2027. For the Southeast Asian countries, I have only chosen two because they are very rich source of tropical fruits and vegetables. The first one, Thailand, it has developed 20-year agricultural and cooperative strategy. That's from 2017 to 2036. They have National Organic Agriculture Development Plan, Protection of Geographical Indication Act, and they have used very good use of this Act, Plant Varieties Protection Act, Traditional Medicine and Practice Act. Similarly, for Malaysia, they had in 1984 National Agriculture Policy, and it had called for increasing the production of horticultural crops to diversify agriculture and vitalize sector's contribution to the overall economy. And then they have also National Agro-Food Policy 2011 to 2020. And for Thailand, I want to just show this example where they have changed their drug manufacturing areas, which are suitable for poppy. This is also very suitable agroclimatic condition for coffee. So they have converted this into coffee and have developed a coffee of their own specialty. And they have used GIs for different fruits. If you see, even for pomelo, they have different indicators, even for pineapple, and then sweet tamarind. So in this way, Thailand is making very good use of Geographical Indication Act. For Nepal and in this region, I think one of the most important areas to focus is for post-harvest and food safety challenges. And because most of the agricultural products are very perishable, so we have to consider their increasing the shelf life and minimizing the post-harvest loss. And in order to do that, we have to develop some healthy, climate-friendly packaging materials because these have been one of the sources of urban waste that we cannot recycle easily. So if we can make environmentally friendly packaging materials, containers, so that we can transport and store them easily. Use of safe agrochemicals for the ripening, especially of the fruits, because in pesticide residue test, we do see some of the harmful chemicals, so we have to minimize those. And I think we also have to use barcoding system so that we don't toss them often at the customer gets, because those are one of the susceptible and very resource of bacteria and viruses for our deterioration of the products. Using of in Nepal, usually we use you might have seen we have many open in the trays or in trolleys. So these are very every person who the buyers, everyone touches, presses, chooses, and that makes post-harvest loss a lot. So if we can use the pre-weighted packages of different sizes like this, I think we can minimize our post-harvest loss to a great extent. For the research, we have many aspects, but the first priority is to develop improved varieties as well as produce the quality saplings and seed sources. Similarly, for the soil fertility management, we need integrated approach. And we are practicing some protected cultivation, but not throughout the season, and they are not suitable from Tarai to wild. So I think we do need some standard cultivation packages that we can use for different seasons to ensure that even adverse condition effects, still some production can be obtained. Then production and efficient supply of quality planting materials. This is for all, and especially for walnut grafted saplings and apple for high density plantation. Then precision technologies for fruit orchards. And this is for the indigenous crops. I think we also need research on conservation as well as utilization of these crops so that we can promote their values, nutritional value, and promote. For now, we have been collecting this from our forest, but this might get exploited. So these are, if you see here, this one, I think it can substitute to some extent the potatoes because they are highly, for diabetic patients, potato is not considered good. So if we can promote this Dioscorea bulbifolia, it will be very good alternative. And this is our Himalayan raspberry, usually picked up from the forest. Then fiddle head fern we use as green vegetable. and bayberries. So these are some of the examples of wild edible foods that we can develop and research and develop the cultivation practices. So these can contribute to the food and nutrition security. For the gender-friendly tools, I think because most of our fruit trees are big trees, so we need some gender-friendly equipments for harvesting and management, training and pruning of the trees that are already in the big stage, which need frequent pruning and training. Similarly, processing industry to utilize excess production during peak season and under and oversized foods. So for this, we need to establish as well as develop capacity so that we can produce good quality processed products. For balanced food, I don't have to say much, but where I want to focus is we can rapidify and scale up our pesticide residue testing. Similarly, strict regulation on healthy food supply system. And for the South Asia and Southeast Asian, I think we still need to do some mass awareness campaigns and programs to show the adverse effects and impacts of pesticide on human health, animal, and environment in line with our One Health strategy. So these will certainly help in reducing the unnecessary use of pesticides. And there are some sectoral confusion or overlap. So if we can address through policies, it will help us. For example, the ones I showed earlier, wild fruits, vegetable spices, they fall both under forestry products. And for some commercial ones, the forestry sector is from agriculture sector if they are produced in large scale. So those things create some certain confusion at the customs when they are imported like spices crops. Similarly, for our fruits like walnut, chestnut, monkey fruit, they are used as wood as well as for fruits. So they are also overlapped under forestry and horticulture sector. Roadside plantation, we have been recently encouraging this, but there are issues with like public and private lands, cultivated land versus forest lands or corridors. Similarly, once they are planted, the ownership issue of ownership, like local governments should take the ownership or provincial or the central government, we started the programs. So I think we need integrated policies to address such issues so that we can develop and implement plans in our coordinated approach. For the opportunities, I just want to again repeat that these are very important crops for health. And for our recommendation, all those were actually this is like the summary. At first, we need to do the capacity development and modernization of our existing horticultural development farms and research stations that are all over the country so that we can develop them each one into a specific center of excellence for the respective commodities. Second is integrated policy. Aside from the ones I mentioned earlier, I think we also need holistic policy which links horticulture education, research, development, and extension to develop the sector as a whole. Also for other inputs and conservation of biodiversity and disaster management and risk reduction policies. So we do need to make such policies. And one important point is to form a group or task force in the regional level so that we can look up to as an expert group for specific problems like citrus decline and all those temperate fruits. So if we can have those specific expert task force, I think that will be very good way to go forward. Develop regional networks for supply chain and marketing. Increase investment, this one has been already said, and then screening the genetic resources. We do have South Asia and Southeast countries have many resources that are not yet fully utilized or studied or researched. So we do need to develop these facilities for developing resilient varieties, then facilitate exchange and sharing of good performing public varieties and horticultural genetic materials. Because now it's very difficult to get some good varieties from other countries, even in Nepal. So if we can facilitate those things, it will be really helpful. And also develop common testing protocols and standards for healthy planting materials, good agricultural practices, and organic certification so that this will reduce the risks of our porous border. If we follow all the same standards and restriction and regulation, I think this will be very good for the whole region. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Shanta, for your nice presentation and timely presentation, actually. She has covered lots of things here about the area, about the production per hectare and current policy program of Bangladesh and different Southeast Asian countries. And she also mentioned some problems. So I think everybody is, and rapporteurs also noticing this thing. And she also gives some suggestion for conservation and utilization of biodiversity, then screening of genetic resources, a gap, organic certification, etc. So I think this will help for developing further policies and development of the horticultural sector in this region. So thank you. Now, our second presenter is Dr. Shanker Barsila, who is Assistant Professor of Department of Animal Nutrition, Agriculture and Forestry University. He will talk about food security and nutrition of fruits and vegetables in South and Southeast Asia. Yeah, may I request Dr. Shanker to give your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for my short introduction. And I introduce myself as I am non-horticulturist, but I'm closely working with animal and human nutrition sciences. So I'm quite close to you, not far away. So good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you in the presentation, the food security and nutrition through fruits and vegetables in South and Southeast Asia. And mostly I would like to focus to South Asia because we are here today. Let's go to directly. And in my presentation, I would try to cover these aspects: background, global importance, and the regional status of nutrition, the area and productivity. I think I would escape out. Dr. Karki has already talked about this. And we certainly visit to challenges and opportunities and critical solutions for this workshop. Let us go to the topic. And the meaning of the food security is quite clear from this summit held in 1966. Physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets the people's dietary needs. It is quite clear. But if we go to our to our land, and it is quite opposite. And South Asia hosts the number of poor peoples, and they are mostly food insecure. And if we go to the population side, then where in South Asia, 40.6% of the population are moderately or severely food insecure. And if we go to the Southeast Asia, this population would go up to 50%, around 50.4. So in recent observations, FF has stated there is more 4% 6 increase to this population to insecure population. So we can say the importance of food security in this way. So if you talk to the share of population that cannot afford a healthy diet, and I think Professor Elizabeth has already talked about this yesterday. If we see to the map and these all South Asia and the South Asian regions could go to food insecure region, and food insecurity is called when the people's income, half of the income is invested to food. So look these regions, see Africa, part of the Western Asia, and South Asia, mainly Nepal, and to the Eastern Asia, they are all the food insecure region. So then if we talk to our region in this Southeast and South Asia, then if we calculate this figure to obesity, there is huge number of years lost due to obesity. Our region is not only suffering from food insecurity, but also obesity is also the reason of food malnutrition. So there are a lot of productive year loss due to overweight and obesity, because this might be entrained in last few decades, because our food system is mostly rely on more sugary and starchy or more carb enriched foods. So this may be the reason. So then let's go to the per capita, per kilogram of food products produced. And if you compare to meat-based products or food animal products, sorry, animal source food. And let's go to talk about other horticultural crops. The land use efficiency is very less for meat. Okay, let's see, for apple production, less than 1 square meter is okay, but that needs around 370 square meter for lamb and mutton production, and quite close to beef production, and also a lot of area required for cheese production. So in poor areas and poor areas, the production of plant-based food is very good, maybe amenable to produce. Then let's go to land use of foods per 100 kilocalories energy produced. That is the similar trend to that of protein production. Let's go to see the horticultural crops. The land area requirement is quite low as compared to animal source food. Then let's go to again to land use per 100 grams of protein, and the trend, there are not much more vegetable and fruit crops here, but if you see pea and groundnuts, it is quite low as compared to animal source food. Then if you go to average per capita vegetable intake versus minimum recommended guidelines, these regions are all poor in terms of food security. See, these areas are quite close to South America, Africa, south of territories, and to some East Asian countries, because they are all below dietary guidelines. And it says vegetable needs to be taken at least 250 grams per person per day, and these regions are quite low in this dietary requirement. The trend for vegetable is a bit, for fruit is a bit different, and it looks the South America is more safe as compared to South Asia and South Africa, but Australia is okay, and for China it's also okay, but Russian territories is also not safe according to this data. So then the food security concept is born with intake of starch food in the past, but now it comes with consumption of quality foods that may be either with proteins and minerals, or some with vitamin enriched foods. And they have also importance not only as food security, but also for these quality of life, and for increase the food availability, quality, and thus food security, we can say. Okay, the first concept is to make available. Second concept is to make quality, its content, and third one is then we can only say the area is under food security. And these fruits and vegetables are also the combatants, good combatants against undernutrition. And in this region, mostly vitamin A and or zinc and other micronutrients are deficient. So there is also one study that clearly says off-season production can ensure year-round availability of fruits and vegetables, and that may be possible for year-round supply of these nutrients. So then I compile a sort of cohort studies and cross-sectional studies, and they have shown quite good examples for intake or provision of fruits and vegetables. And if we just double the intake of fruits and vegetables, there might be beneficial to combat non-cardiovascular and total mortality, the reduction of hepatocellular carcinoma, and control of anxiety and mental stress. And as the region is very rich for production of tropical fruits, from poor man's apple to rich man's apple in this region, and that may be the good source of phytochemicals, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and that may be enriched in our food sources. So the concern is the improving diversity, because we have very less diverse food groups. Indeed, we have most resources that may provide different nutrients. So along this, the fruit and vegetable intake would provide the dietary fibers. So it is generally regarded as the new world nutrition. So then let's go to mean intake and form of fruits and vegetables and habit of peoples. Here it's say Southeast Asia is very poor in terms of intake of both fruits and vegetables, and that's mostly cooked. And in cooked fruits and vegetables, there may be a lot of nutrients lost. This may be also the reason. This reason is food insecure, nutrient insecure. Then if we talk to the fruits and vegetables intake per day, and this is under the dietary guideline, not it is hardly 140 gram or less than this, which Professor Elizabeth has already talked yesterday. Let me skip it out. So then let's skip the production status, and because Dr. Karki has already talked, and let's go to major challenges and opportunities in Asia. And the rapid urbanization has created shift in consumption patterns due to rise in income and urbanization, and that has also created pressure on production side, and that has created pressure mass on the import side. And another is resource intensive production to meet the demand has implications for land and water use as well as climate change. And third one is the rapid population growth, income disparity is another reason, another challenge, and seasonal production is also the challenge. And if we talk to the seasonal production in terms of nutrient price index and consumer price index, and this inflation is largely carried out by the seasonal nature of vegetable production in this region, and this data mostly is given for Southeast Asia. So the other challenges are we don't have much updated information, we don't have much access, or we need to have some data mines on major food and nutrition indicators of consumption, and risk projection of climate change is also needed. And if we go to compare Nepal and Bangladesh, we have the population migration problem, and which has forced female workers in agriculture by 9.3% and 7% respectively. That is from in the last decade. So this outmigration and low mechanization in the agriculture sector has created the problem of shortage of labor, and this has forced women to work, and there is gender discrimination in access to land, capital, input, information, and capacity building, and other trainings. And further, the fruits and vegetables are highly diverse in this region and perishable as compared to other staple food crops. So they are the summary of these challenges here, the low volume, they coupled with climate and social factors, and then coupled with some post-harvest losses. That may be the figure very close to the South Asian average. The post-harvest loss is up to 30 to 40%. And I found one example, Pakistan, it is heavy loss. If we talk to monetary figure, it is not less than 1.13 billion US dollars. It is very huge. And if we calculate for all the countries, and the figure might come huge. So another important part to include horticulture crop research is to combat the limit the greenhouse gas emissions in the environment. And if we talk to horticulture crops and agronomical crops, the land requirement per kilogram of food product is not comparable at all to the animal source foods. So let's go to the north. It is 0.42 kg, while that for beef production is around 100 kilogram, and for lamb and mutton it is near 40 kilogram, while that for cheese is around 24, while that for milk is around 3 kilogram. For tomatoes, maize, wheat and rye, peas, bananas, and tomatoes, they are less than 2 kilograms. So this is the point, another point to be addressed in the future research to reduce the environmental burden. So then if we go to direct to Southeast and Southeastern data, this is the database from the World Health Organization 2020. And let's see in the Southeast East Asia and also in Southeast Asia, the consumption of fruit and vegetables are also not so much increasing, but they are still stagnant. Let's see from 2014 to 2018. Also for East Asia, Southeast Asia, they are also stagnant. So then why to improve food, cheap source, fruit and vegetable is still a cheaper source of food in this region, but country-wise data is different. And if we talk to the need to value and its weight, it's an important food resource for all the countries, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India. Then there are some other improvements in research and production in different countries. And if we talk to Nepal, and there is almost eightfold increase in the last 40 years of this production. And Nepal had made progress on policy, development, technology transfer, productivity, and production enhancement in the last 60 decades. This is important part to address the research. And the use of arable lands in unplanned urbanization is another challenge for the development of fruits and vegetables. Then I do recommend mostly on the research, investment on physical infrastructures, post-harvest management, valorization of products, and the variety development and multi-location testing, the utilization of underexploited fruits and vegetables and its wild natives, and emphasis to cost minimizing technologies, and policy on utilization of abandoned lands, mostly for plantation agriculture, because land abandonment has huge problem in our region. It is estimated around 40% in Nepal. So that might be a good option to change into productive agriculture, mostly to plantation agriculture. Then investment and collaboration, promotion and sustainable research. So then other critical suggestion I may say that the development of metrics of the nutrition indicators in this region, the inter-alliance of universities and government agencies, and upscaling current academic research and collaborations, strengthening the capacity of locally acting agencies may be the, it may either good to say the promotion of capacity of the local government, and develop or adapt relevant guidelines, regulation, regulatory frameworks, because these are already in place in different countries. Dr. Karki has already talked about this. The interventions for use of underexploited fruits and vegetables, because these part mostly are largely consumed in the world, and that cover around 24% of the global demand. So they have basic importance to be addressed in this horticulture innovation lab research in the future. Then strengthening of health systems and empowering local development through stakeholder engagement. That means health literacy with nutrition literacy, that may join or that may come together. Then another interventions. I'm not biasing you, but I'm telling you the fact. I'm working on it. I'm using the cabbage wastes to make it into the poultry feed. So one example is interventions for food waste valorization. I waste food to feed. That may be the good. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Shanker Barsila. Thank you for your nice presentation. He has covered a lots of things, and he mentioned about the food pattern of the Southeast Asian region people, and he mentioned some challenges such as a shift of consumption patterns, seasonal production, urbanization, and actually the labor discrimination, I think, because when we are thinking about the engagement of a female labor, they actually suffer a lot to get land, then loan, training, etc. So these are the problems. And at the same time, he also mentioned some opportunities. That means we can develop somehow, and we need to focus on these parts actually. Varietal development, maybe post-harvest management, cost minimizing technologies, and obviously the collaboration between the Southeast Asian countries to overcome these situations. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Dr. Shanker Barsila. Now we have our last presenters of this session. he is Professor Dr. Bim Prasad Shrestha. He is a senior professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Kathmandu University. He is also president of Nepalese Society of Agricultural Engineers. So may I request Professor Dr. Bim Prasad Shrestha.
Thank you very much for very nice introductions. I'm Bim Shrestha, currently a professor at Kathmandu University, and I'm also president of Nepalese Society of Agriculture Engineers. So that gives me a privilege to speak a little bit more on behalf of our engineering associations. Similarly, I happen to spend quite a good amount of time in Michigan State. So I serve as a general secretary for MSU alumni. Dr. Joshi is here. He is the person who has inspired us to have set up this MSU alumni here in Nepal. Thank you. Today, actually, I happen to come a little late, but I do feel I'm on time. My presentation is about status of farm mechanization in South and Southeast Asia, because I didn't try to much concentrate on a horticulture sector, but mostly on agriculture, and I'll try to do some of my presentation on horticulture or fruits and vegetables areas where I have been working. Next question. And my colleague Rupesh Acharya, he is my executive member at Nepalese Society of Agricultural Engineers, so he supported me to prepare these slides. I hope Okay, so I can read from here. So let me quote, the when tillage begins, other art follows. The farmers, therefore, are the founders of human civilizations. This is a quote I would like to begin with. We have to respect and honor the farmers who has been constantly feeding us. An entire life scenario begins once we start seeding. And my topic is here about how this seeding, the farmers, how we could assist these farmers to have them better life, and they can have more better maneuverability in their day-to-day life. General introductions. I like to little bit, I think most of you are from horticulture and agriculture background, but I'm also in the agriculture sector, but mostly I work with the engineering aspects. So I try to little bit define what farm mechanization is all about. So this is a special type of engineering discipline and ag engineering we work on. It's farm mechanization is application of engineering principle and technology in agriculture production, storage, and processing in farm. Of course, we work both on farm and off the farm, but today mostly I try to focus on farm kind of farm mechanizations where we would try to work on. Especially in these few days, few years, when we were having a lot of this restrictions due to COVID and others, we were very much restricted to have most of our farmland remain uncultivated, not cultivated. So one of the major reason is in this part of the world, a lot of people living in the rural areas, the out migration is very high. If you happen to go and see, of course, since I'm given a topic to talk about South and Southeast Asia, but taking an example in Nepal, the out migration is very high. People, they don't want to remain in the villages where most of our agricultural lands are located. So that is creating the acute shortage of human resources that could be involved in the agriculture sector. Another is on the one hand, we do have a intensive outbound migration of labor. On the other hand, we need to have a lot of food requirement that is creating a food insecurity, and we need to have intensive agriculture growing, but not at the cost of the environment, but at the cost of as a matter of increasing production and productivity. So the efficient use of agriculture and making them use in a best possible way so that we can have a higher productivity and production is possible only through farm mechanization. This is what has been concluded in several meetings that we've been working on. Okay, talking about little I'm trying to cover here other than Nepal here. If you see the market for agriculture mechanization or agriculture equipments, it has been by FAO, it has been forecasted in 2022 to 2028, there will be about $13.1 billion scope for agriculture mechanization's market, meaning there's extensive growth of machineries or equipments or some sort of processing technologies that could be employed in agriculture. Especially you can see the different ag equipment machineries and companies are coming up here, like a John Deere, AGCO, Mahindra based in India and others. These companies are coming up, and the market that has been projected for ag machineries that could be used both in a on farm and off farm, both in horticulture and other agronomical crops, can have a very high scope. So this is a map of Nepal, India, and of course Bangladesh. Try to see some of the possibilities we did. The FAO has done some of the, this is a reference taken from FAO, and we have done some of the extensive agriculture mechanization process. And if you see even in entire India, there are some Haryana and Punjab areas. They have grown the growth, the production and productivity in Haryana and Punjab area in India is almost there sufficient to grow. They have extensive farm mechanization. And even in Bangladesh, you can see some of the part here, and India, this Bihar also now extensively growing up in terms of their farm mechanizations and possibilities of extensive use of farm machineries for higher productivity. Nepal, of course, we are trying to work on some of the villages we have done, some of the sample villages we have collected. Still, the farm mechanization is very severely restricted due to, I can, of course, okay, I'll go for this slide. Well, one of the, sometimes we may feel very proud of having said that we have a very high number of agricultural labor engaged in these farming practices, but unfortunately, this is not true. If you see the most of the developed countries, I have been trained in Japan, I've also been trained in Israel. We do see the very few percentage of populations is still engaged in agriculture, and a majority of populations now have grown into high earning professions like some ITs and other professions. But unfortunately, in this part of the world, still, if you see the contribution of agriculture sector in national GDP is a very high, followed by Afghanistan is very high, 20%, Nepal is still 19-20%, India high. So we still need to have the other non-agricultural sectors to be developed based on agricultural profession. However, it is a compulsion. People have to rely upon the conventional or subsistence farming system in this part of the world. And among the South Asian countries, including Afghanistan, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, and Bhutan, the level of farm mechanization is highest, as I've seen, because of the very few lands even in India. It's Punjab and Haryana, they have been so extensively mechanized. They have a highest amount of the farm mechanizations in the South Asian context, whereas Bangladesh is also now coming up very rapidly. The farm mechanization in Bangladesh is coming up very fast. As you can see, the farm machinery is mostly used in a land preparation is more than 80% in Bangladesh, and more than 80% also in a tracing and other post-harvest technology. But however, other activities are done manually in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh and India is coming very rapidly high in terms of use of machines and others in order to have a better production and productivity. Now, let me little bit talk about Nepal, the constraint that has been imposed by the severe terrains here. If you see, we have even a land of more than 5,000 meter high. Of course, we don't grow anything here. But most of the lands you can see it is like this very high gradient that doesn't make us very suitable for Nepal to be at a suitable place for ag mechanizations, creating a lot of efforts to be done. So we need to have very selective, of course in Nepal when I talk, we need to have a very selective and very special appropriate type of farm mechanization in order to allow our machine to move in these difficult terrains. Of course, most of the agriculture practices, as you can see here, in mid mountains, Siwalik and Terai regions, where we do most of the agriculture. Where in Terai regions, fairly fair kind of land areas that is okay for some of the cash crops and others agriculture commodities that we can grow. But when you come to the mountain regions here, the terrain is so sharp. This is just a elevation differences that you can see in Nepal, where the mobility, the maneuverability of agriculture machinery is very challenging. So that creates the big hurdles for us to have established the mechanization as our neighboring countries, Bangladesh and India, have been doing. As I have mentioned before, the studies that we have conducted has shown that the farm mechanizers have very positive impact on agriculture productions and productivity. As you can see, it has improved labor and agriculture productivity. Of course, sometimes we use agriculture machinery just not for as a part of the creating, because most of the time I used to say it's not like a hobby, but having agriculture machineries, it must reduce the cost of productions. And that would eventually create a better benefits for the farmers that are engaged in this agriculture sector. Increase commercialization of agriculture. In some cases, enhance the climate change mitigations is also possible, because extensively working by human beings, creating a lot of carbon emissions can be reduced by using appropriate or renewable energy powered agricultural machineries that can have a less impact or less emission of CO2 and other green gas. So that would create a better adaptation technique for climate change in this part of the world. Okay, now because this is very so timely, and I try to work a little bit on how we can work on a post-pandemic situations, because we do consider, of course, we do sporadically here. The COVID is not yet over, but we do feel now like in a post-pandemic scenario, how this agriculture mechanization or farm machinery could be adopted very rapidly, because this is giving some sort of good opportunity for all of us to see the loopholes, how we can penetrate agriculture mechanization in this part. Especially, as I said before, there's a big market for agriculture machinery growers in this part of the world. And two, due to pandemic situations, a lot of people have shifted doing their agriculture practice and started doing new professions, doing some online work and some other things, and have been also trained. People are also trained to adopt a different kind of professions. In order to fill up those gaps, now it is a very right time to have these agriculture machineries, or rather than being human involved in a very rigorous activities of agriculture practices, can be done by mechanization. So this poster, you can see in Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and all, now they are extensively going on in some sort of a mechanized, or beyond that, I can say, I will come to that point. Beyond that is like a smart farmings and using some sort of IT-based farming systems that creates the modern technologies to be employed in agriculture, so that agriculture is no more becoming like a very drudgery, inviting kind of profession. Rather, it is creating some sort of profession where people or youngsters can enjoy and have their work done. One of the areas that we have been currently working on is need from farm mechanization to farm automations. Of course, I've been given a topic of farm mechanization, but rather I would like to talk more on farm automations, because this is one of the areas that I studied in Michigan State, how we can have the digital image processing techniques in order to identify different types of the disease crops. Okay, so this is a satellite images, or we can capture the images by drones, and those this is one of the projects that I've been working on with the AFU. I think Dr. Arjun is here. AFU, Kathmandu University, and MIT in Boston. So we try to work on how to identify the greening of the citrus that is grown in a mid hills of Nepal, and how we can have a timely detection of the different disease of the citrus, and the spraying or some sort of pesticides can be applied in a very specific areas without having much of the pesticides being lost. So this is one of the areas that currently myself from Kathmandu University, and we have some colleagues from MIT in Boston and AFU, we are trying to work on, and we have collected some basic data so that that could be utilized for farmers to work on. And another part that currently we are working in Thailand is this is a product quality sorting in Thailand that we are working on. Especially this is a durian, one of the very famous fruits that's found in the tropical climates. And another is a mango. We are working on trying to use this image processing techniques and NIR sensor in order to identify the sweetness and some of the flesh contents in the durian. So this is a kind of resources. Meaning, having said this is a kind of opportunity that we are getting, because it used to be sorted by human being and it used to be tested by human test itself in order to have, but now we have a automatic sensing devices that allows us to tell exactly how much is the sugar content in different types of fruits. Of course, not in vegetables. We can see some of the other nutrient contents, but these kind of automatic sorting machines are coming up, and some of our students in Nepal, they are working in this part of the world, in Thailand. Okay, other machineries, if I see in the South Asians, this is one of the very popular machine. We don't someone call it a mini tractor, but we don't call it mini tractor, we call it power tiller. This is about 5 to 10 horsepower capacity, and it is extensively used in a mountain agriculture, and especially the farmers with a low income even can make use of it, and that has a minimum requirement of resources. But we are trying to work on this kind of a power tiller to be powered by not conventionally diesel engine, but with some power battery and others. This is some of the resources that we are working on, so that these power tillers, when extensively used, sometime in the mountain area, we call it the iron block, because these are made of this. They can travel in a difficult terrains in the mountain areas, and this can be implemented. This can be installed where even you have a fragmented land situation, and you have a less amount of energy requirement for cultivation, because in the mountains we have a lot of fragmented lands, and this kind of power tillers can be used. Next is about other commonly used machine. As you can see, the land preparation machine and equipments, cultivator, levelers and others, seed planting and irrigation equipments. This is one of the topics that I just wanted to say, like these days a lot of efforts are being put in order to have a flooding kind of irrigation systems. And when we talk about horticulture crops and horticulture fruits and vegetables, the irrigations cannot be done in that way, but rather we need to have a modern irrigation techniques like a sprinkler or drip irrigation systems, and that is very extensively used where the water requirements relatively high or where water availability is low. So in that case, this kind of a drip irrigation systems can be used in the mountain areas. And these days, the drip irrigation along with the fertilizers tank has been also being installed to be used in a orchards, where fertilizers and water can be supplied in the exact amount where it is needed and when it is needed. So this is a kind of a, I'm not showing a lot of pictures because just have some sort of glimpses. Seeding and irrigation equipment, there is a strong scope of having mechanized in irrigation systems where that can be applied with modern techniques. And even the controlling systems can be done by using some electronic devices to allow the exact amount and precision irrigation systems in this part. Weeding and plant protections, weeder and sprayers that we can use. We can have even we can go for in terai regions or in flat areas. There are a lot of combine harvester and threshers are also being used in agriculture tractors, because normally when we say mechanizations, introducing tractor has been considered as a mechanization only, but it's not always true, because a tractor costs a lot of money. It produces a lot of other side effects. There must be very judicial decisions in order to have tractors to be acquired by any farmer. So we can give an option, either 2-wheel, 4-wheel tractors, or even no tractor situations can work, but it must be well justified. Because I do see in Nepal, I have traveled extensively in Terai Part, even in Chitawan, we do see the tractors are there, but they are used for not other than agricultural purpose and other purpose. Okay. let me briefly tell about some of our, because yesterday we had a discussion among our co-chaps. uh, uh, some of the discussion, like some of the problems and the challenges that we are facing in agriculture machinery adaptation. One of the major reasons is in this part of the world, when we say the South Asian countries, the economic status of farmers is not so high. Even they cannot afford to have even simple agriculture machinery that enlist them for adoption of this technology. And that would lead to subsistence farming. When he says, so I think all of we understand subsistence farming is being practiced not because of their choice, but because of compulsion, their poor economic status. Inadequate facilities for machineries, because even in rural areas, once the machineries are brought, to have them repair and having spare part is one of the major constraints in the rural part of the country. Extreme topography, as I explained before, because this part of the world we face extreme topography that puts the challenge for mechanization to be adopted. And soil type also very varied. It's not continuous like in the United States. You do have a very flat lands and others very continuous kind of areas, but here very extreme kind of soil condition that inhibits us to have proper mechanizations. To be continued, as I said, the spare parts is inadequate. Manpower also, trained manpowers, because we have less workshop than trained manpowers are available, and conventional technicians are working, which is for them to repair this modern technology is beyond their capacity. So we need to have a continuous manpower capacity development programs. And finally, the land utilization policy is not strictly followed, because we do have recently in Nepal only, we have established the land utilization practices where to grow orchards, where to grow horticulture crops, where to grow agronomic crops. This has been established. And based on that, if someone develops agriculture machinery marketing strategy, but people are not following exactly the way the agriculture land utilization map has been prepared. So that is creating some sort of hurdles to have a real forecasting of their business plans and others. Oops. So some of the recommendations.
May I request you to finish just within
okay,
1 minute?
I'll just
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the recommendations in agriculture machinery adaptation is we have to focus on appropriate mechanization. I'll not explain what is appropriate mechanizations. I think you will understand. And second one is custom hiring. So this is in order to combat those things, I think custom hiring for group cooperative farmings and custom hiring could be one of the ways that can have a modern agriculture machines to be installed there. As I said, cooperation farming, contract farming, land banking, and others can be done. There's a recommendation for mechanization. Human capacity development has to be done. Oops. Why is that? I will. Okay, I will not explain this strategy, how to design and all this thing. I'm not going there because we have to re-engineer the things, all the machines and all these things. I'm not going there. And these are some of the machines. Out of that design, we have come up with some of the list of the machines that can be adopted in this part of the world, where we have different companies and brands that can be installed, that can be marketed in this part of the world. Yeah, these are some of the machines. Oops. Okay. Conclusion. I'll come to. It's okay. I will come to conclusion. Sorry for hearing. To be able to escape from an underdevelopment trap of make the innovation, practical knowledge embodied in the place of the people who live there need to brought out of the combined with the technological know-how. And technology, and this is the last quote I just wanted to repeat. Technology needs to be blended with the conventional agriculture practice to reduce drudgery and make it more economically lucrative. So this is technology is going in one direction, agriculture practices and going another direction. This has to be blended together so that the agriculture becomes lucrative professions and people could enjoy and can proudly tell about their professions in this. Okay. Thank you. With this, I'm not going in design part. With this one, I really appreciate and thank for your very good audience. Very keeps me quiet.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Dr. Bim Prasad. Yeah, for your nice presentation. Actually, we know that use of machineries in the agriculture is definitely a time required thing. So we know that if we want to increase our production, so we need to go for machineries. But use of machineries, there are so many problems as well. As he mentioned that in Nepal, because you have like hilly area, so it is difficult to use the machineries. And there are so other problems like farmers are not very rich to buy their machineries. And another thing is like trained manpower is not available. So these are the parts maybe need to be focused. So yeah, after the discussion, maybe some points will be come up. So thank you. Yeah, thank you.
No
So with this, I think the presentation session is over. Now there will be discussion session. So maybe can I hand over the microphone to, yeah.
Thank you for this great presentation. As yesterday also, we will divide in 3 different groups. Since the list of the participants changed a little bit, the name of the participant is shown in the screen. Can you in the group 1, the list of the participants are Dr. Giridhari Subedi, Mr. Vishal Shrestha, Dr. Hari Krishna Panta, Mr. Shashan Devkota, Mr. Ram Bahadur Keshi, Mrs. Anju Adhikari, Mrs. Rosina Begum, Mrs. Swastika Shrestha, Dr. Janelle Beth Larson, Dr. Ujjal Tiwari, Dr. Narsin Sultana, Mr. Ram Hari Timil Sinha, Dr. Bal Krishna Joshi, Dr. Durga Devkota, Sanjay Dhimal, Dr. Prakash Acharya, and Riti Singh. In group 2nd, the list of the participants are Mr. Dhan Bahadur Thapa, Mrs. Rita Sibakoti, Dr. Umesh Acharya, Dr. Kalika Prasad Upadhyay, Mrs. Bimala Acharya, Dr. Santosh Shrestha, Mr. Lal Bahadur Chetri, Mrs. Parmila Wagle, Professor Dr. Nanda Joshi, Professor Dr. William Vance Baer, Dr. Bhaneshwar Pokhrel, Dr. Ganga Datta Acharya, Mr. Ram Krishna Neupane, Dr. Kedar Devkota, Dr. Fardoshi Islam, Mrs. Nasuran Nair Begum, Rajendra Koirala, and Dr. Rizul Karim. And the list of the participants in group 3 is Dr. Hom Nath Giri, Dr. Sundar Tiwari, Dr. Pushpa Paudel, Mr. Manoj Thital, Dr. Purushottam Khatioda, Professor Dr. Durga Devkota, Mr. Krishna Sapkota, Dr. Nitesh Kumar Paudel, Professor Dr. Elizabeth Mecham, Dr. Narshin Sultana, Dr. Fardosi Islam, Mrs. Srishti Chaudhary, Hikmat Shrestha, Professor Dr. Tamanna Haq, Vasudev Kafle, Krishna Paudel, and Nantanu Bhattacharya. Thank you. If we forget to list the name of the participant, we apologize for that one, and you can choose the respective group according to your interest and expertise. And even if you want to join other group, you may feel free to do that according to your interest and expertise. Now, I would also like to request Dr. Janelle Beth Larson from Penn State University to kindly give a brief agenda on which the group should focus on, which will help to prepare a good comprehensive report. Please, Dr. Larson.
Yeah, that one. Thank you. All right, just, I know we're getting ready to go to the next session, but very briefly, I'd like us to think about our discussions in light of the full name of the conference, okay? So it's horticulture for nutrition, food security, income, it's very long, youth engagement, and gender equity, right? So when we're in our discussion groups, I'd like us to think about how are we really going to meet all of those objectives. I mean, that's ambitious. And research has been done that shows it matters who we're targeting with our interventions. So when we're doing our research, we need to think about who's providing the labor, who's making decisions. When we're looking at our interventions, we need to think about, is this new improved seed variety or a new technology for post-harvest handling meeting the people that it really needs to reach in order to meet those goals? And so what I'm really getting at is we need to think about what is the role that women are playing in households. We know from research that when women control, it's a variety of different studies have found different mechanisms or different avenues, but in general, if women control decisions about income use, about production, about access to credit, you see greater dietary diversity, you see greater food security, you see higher nutrition outcomes for children, but the households as a whole. So we need to think about these aspects in order to meet those goals. We also want to think about, when we talk about gender, but we've also broadened that to think about other areas of equity and inclusion. So we also want to think about ethnicity or caste, smallholder farmers. And so we want to make sure that our research is thinking about those people and our interventions are going to reach those populations and those parts of the households. So that's a long way of getting at, when you're in your focus or in your discussion groups, I'd like you to think about, we talked about what are the barriers or challenges to reach, within the different areas we're talking about, and what are some of the opportunities. I'd like us to focus that, or at least to have a part of the discussion think about what are the barriers and opportunities for women in, the areas we talked about today, with looking at nutrition and mechanization or other underrepresented populations. And not just challenges and barriers, but also opportunities, that we're thinking about young people, women, and minority groups or underrepresented groups as we're having our discussion, because that's going to be a very important part of our report. I'm not saying that the technical sides are easy, but the social science sides are really where we often have a lot of challenges in really reaching those goals. So keep that in mind with our discussions today and tomorrow. Thank you.
I have a small announcement that we are going to join this two round tables for the group 1, and then these 2 round tables we are going to join for group 2, and the last round tables for group 3. Thank you. Rapporteur, afterwards. Rapporteurs, could you please facilitate the group joining? I also like to request the presenters to join the respective table.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? Hello. Dr. Bear also want to give some instruction or suggestion regarding this discussion.
One thing I just wanted to encourage the groups is to keep the big picture in mind. Don't focus so much on a particular crop or a particular experiment, but think about the bigger theme that multiple crops, multiple projects could be submitted and work under. And maybe we'll have a more dynamic list of priorities as a result of that.